listening to The Two Marks exclusively on the Pod Station.
Welcome, listeners, to a new show brought to you by The Two Marks. Similar to Charles Bronson, we've been away for a while, but like the common cold, we're back, continuing our vicarious journey of discovery through the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Put your smiles in the upright position, crack open that bottle of pop, and fill up your nut bowl. Not a euphemism. As we follow one person's experiences watching all 31 movies in chronological order. This episode, we're reviewing Ant-Man. Welcome to the Marvel Marathon, and a little bit more. Let me introduce my friend and co-host, Mr. Mark Pollard Ali. Hello.
Hi, mate. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I feel, firstly, is that 31 movies where we're at the minute?
Yeah.
And secondly, I feel we should never put any timestamps in this because it takes us that long to release these shows. Like, the whole universe has usually changed by the time we do it.
Okay.
The Bronson reference, I insist we leave it in. That will enable people to... It's almost like we're adding a game to this whole show. People, they can go back and investigate when they think we actually recorded it.
That is interesting, yeah. I mean, to be fair, he has been in prison 50 years, so it could be any time within the past 50 years.
Anyway, yeah, we're not alone, as we've alluded to.
Yes. Unusually quiet. Normally she's gagged in before the first sentence has left my lips.
Careful, you can't shout at my wife like that.
Yeah, Latham.
Well, there's a table between us. I'd like to see you try. I think I can get to that door quicker than you can get up.
That's so true nowadays.
You should explain. She's with child.
Well, I don't know why I'm explaining. You did the deed.
Yeah, I did the deed and she's now with child.
Yeah, otherwise the other competition you can ring in for is find out who's the daddy.
Yeah, so I'm not moving anywhere anytime quickly.
But you were doing that before you were pregnant, so I'm trying to work out how it's different.
She's now got an excuse.
Exactly.
Wish I had that one.
The midday nap is legitimately okay now.
As opposed to falling asleep mid-film.
Yeah.
You could argue the reason why it's taken us that long is because you have to rewatch the rewatch of the rewatch.
True that.
Oh, I've seen most of these films at least 16 times and 15 of them are with her.
Yeah, so 2 more movies have been out since we last did this.
Yeah, I know. Do you know what the irony is? I feel we're, at the moment, putting these shows out less frequently than they're producing films, and we're just getting further away from the finishing line.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, and we've got a baby coming, so that's going to make it a bit longer between sessions as well, isn't it?
Okay. Is that the contractual caveat?
Yeah.
Although your wife's pregnancy would disagree with that comment, wouldn't it?
Yeah, no, I suppose.
Keep it clean.
Yes, it's just got a fear that the child will listen to these at some point in the future if podcasts do still exist in 20 years' time.
They will.
They might put them on those time capsules and put it in the back garden.
Exactly.
And then dig it up.
What, they're going to put the podcast on the time capsule?
What, they're going to put it on it?
Well, yeah, because you can't put a podcast in a time capsule because it's obviously an electronic thing.
On a USB, couldn't they?
I suppose.
And then the USB goes into the computer.
Well, that was my question. You've answered it very succinctly.
Okay.
That was good. I was still trying to think of an answer to that. Well done, Latham. I was like, a phone? Will that work? Does that help? Not really.
You've got a pregnancy brain going on.
I
haven't
have.
you? Yeah.
Well, Latham's here to be the brains. I'm here to be the brawn and the sex. And you're here to be...
What's your answer?
The recipient.
Anyway, what we're here to watch today, did you say in your intro? I wasn't fully listening, or it's been that long ago that I forgot.
The Ant-Man.
Ant-Man. Very exciting.
I think so. I have been quite excited waiting for this to happen.
Well, I've been really frustratingly excited because I've been trying to egg Ish on to watch this spate of movies because, of course, the next one, spoiler alert, people, is Civil War.
Yeah.
Which is his favourite
Which
film.
is probably one of my favourite Marvel films, spoiler alert. I really want to get her to that because I feel that's where, up to now, Marvel's been really good, but I feel that's at the point where it just kicks up another gear in the lead up to Endgame.
Well, I would say Civil War is like Avengers 2.5, isn't it? One movie away, and depending on how we get around to do these, whether Civil War 2 will be out.
We probably had a real Civil War. I mean, please do keep trying to listen. We are going to make an endeavour to get these things out more frequently. We've got loads. The Mandalorians season 1 and season 2 reviews that we recorded a millennium ago. They're now out because, of course, season 3's out, so it's relevant all of a sudden. That was part of our strategy, wasn't it?
I'm going with that. I think if you wait long enough, they'll come around again like fashion.
And who knows, Dave might be an expert on Star Wars now.
Hopefully. He's had enough time. There's been enough shows come out. Dave probably knows just as much as the last time he put on the movie. Well, he didn't even go and see the first movie, did he?
No.
His brother had to tell him.
So, if you're wondering who Dave is and Dave's involvement in this, go and listen to those shows. You can find them on all the major podcast platforms. It's on the same platform you listen to this, really. Just go and check them out. It's the season 1 and season 2. Lots of lols. Should we kick this off?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I've forgotten how to do this. It's been that long.
Well, normally what we do is we have this little bant, and then we hand over to Ishtar, who goes, "It was great." I don't know where she's from. I've heard Manchester. Others have said other places. But she normally goes, "Oh, I really love this film, GK," and things like that.
All right. Well, do you want to do the honours and introduce her in-depth comments on this film?
Ishtar, tell us how you thought this movie went. Did you like it?
I did like it. It was quite light-hearted compared... What was the last film we watched, by the way?
Ultron.
Yeah, it was quite light-hearted and nice introduction to Ant-Man. I was going to say Iron Man. Ant-Man. I liked it. Is it my favourite? You'll have to wait and see as we talk through. But I liked it. It was nice.
I suppose you could easily mistake him as Iron Man. They are just two blokes wearing metal suits.
Yeah, blame the baby
And there is
brain.
a similarity to them. I'm not just talking about you there. I'm talking about sort of in the MCU, if you walk past one of them.
His costume is red and silver. It's not made out of iron. It's a polyester.
I'm aware,
compound.
yeah.
It's not even polyester. I can't even think of the scientific terminology for it. It's just not made out of metal.
Yes.
Yeah, his helmet is, allegedly.
No more helmet jokes. I've just had to listen to The Mandalorian 1 and 2 to take out some clips for social media, and all I've heard is helmet jokes. I'm trying to go through the episodes trying to find a funny bit, and there are very few in our shows, as you're about to find out, but all the funny bits do generally involve Latham making a helmet joke.
What does that tell you about Latham?
It's consistent.
He likes the classics.
Like a good helmet.
Oh dear.
Anyway,
Did you like it, Latham?
really enjoyed it, actually. Hot off the heels of Age of Ultron, and there is some connective tissue, as you'll find out later in the episode. It did provide that little bit of levity because Age of Ultron had violent parts to it, didn't it? As you would have heard in our previous podcast. They haven't, because it's not out yet. So
But it will be by the time this one's out.
Yeah, I mean, if they're listening to this, it'll already be out.
That's true.
Because
So,
chronologically speaking,
technically, I will have done that.
I mean,
yes.
it might be 2026, and there might now be 52 Marvel movies out to watch.
And our voices will sound as bad as Picard in season 3 Picard. I loved Age of Ultron. There was funny bits in it. I think the characters instantly became lovable, even if you didn't know them. They handled the whole, I'm sure we'll go into it, Hank Pym passing on the torch really, really well. And there's good reasons for doing that, actually. In terms of the MCU adapting comic book storylines, they've been faithful to the core text. They've really handled it properly, as I think will become apparent later in the episode. But yeah, I think all of the characters they love. And one of the things I actually did enjoy, the opening scene, was the de-aging technology that they used. Really good.
Yeah, that's the first thing that was on my notes.
Was it?
Well, mainly because that's the start of the film.
That makes sense.
But yeah, we've seen this certainly since, and with a Disney franchise at that, in Star Wars.
Yes.
And when you compare them, I suppose the CGI that they had to use in DC to hide Superman's muzzy.
The worst version, if you watch Aquaman, it's like someone's just taken a trowel to Nicole Kidman's face. And she just looked like a thumb. Bear in mind, Aquaman is around the same time as some of these movies are coming out. You look at how Marvel do de-aging technology, and then you look how DC do it. It's like, really?
Yeah.
It's not even on the same par.
This was amazing. And I remember it being amazing at the time.
Yeah.
What did you think about the de-aging-ish? Do you wish that we could have this in real life?
Yeah, defo. It was good. I did recognise that he was looking a lot more handsome and younger.
Svelte.
Svelte indeed.
A svelte Michael Douglas.
Yeah, go on, they did it well.
Catherine Zeta-Jones was made up. They renewed their vows soon after that film was released.
They were like, can I marry this one?
Yeah.
It was good though. I quite like the way it tied into the Winter Soldier with using the Avenger building / base.
I mean, you've jumped ahead massively there, haven't you?
What do you mean?
In terms of the film?
No, well, this is right at the beginning. Right at the beginning,
Are you talking about
1989.
Sorry, you're talking the Triskelion building?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
all right.
No, I know which one you... The old original...
So
sorry, not the Shield building. That's it. Yeah, that's where my...
Stock
Yes. I
and
apologise.
No, it's all right. I was just thinking, this is the shortest podcast ever.
If I've been lax in my language, I deserve to be berated.
No, the Triskelion building's the S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, so yeah, it's from the 80s. Although he's not a fan of S.H.I.E.L.D., is he?
No.
No, but it was quite exciting that he was working for Tony Stark's dad. I was like,
Yeah.
ooh, that.
Well, this is quite interesting. Now, is this the first film that they used that actor as Tony
No.
Stark's dad?
No.
He was in Iron Man.
He wasn't the original person playing his dad when they were doing callbacks. However, he has very much become the actor.
The other person to play him in Peggy Carter.
I'm sure there was someone someone in an earlier film who didn't... I mean, I might be mistaken. I've been mistaken about many things, not least the reference to the building name.
When you start as you mean to go on.
Yeah, exactly.
Wrong. There may well have been in a clip when he gets handed the box, and I'm thinking I'd say Iron Man 1, and then from that moment on, is it not Tony Slattery? Is it some guy called...
John Slattery.
John Slattery plays him.
Yeah.
And then I think it's either in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and in Peggy Carter. There's another actor who plays him.
Yeah.
But it's because they go back
Well, he's the
further.
young one,
Yeah,
isn't
yeah.
he?
I like that, and I like the way the past ties into the future. They don't just throw these figures at you. You know Hank Pym existed. In terms of the film, as the first character to be a legacy character. The way they handle that's pretty good.
Yeah. We then skip over to meet our hero of the story, Scott Lang.
Oh, classic, yeah.
In the
wonderful.
Nick.
Yes, love it.
This kind of sets up the film tone perfectly, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's very jokey and very light-hearted, and it's nice that you meet Scott's best friend when he gets out of prison, and it just feels like a nice vibe to the movie from the get-go.
Even when he's been punched in the face.
Yeah.
That says more about you, love.
Don't judge.
And then, is he Louis? Louis picks him up in the van. I mean...
He's a character.
Oh.
Isn't
He's
he?
brilliant. I really like him. I'd like him to be my friend.
All right, greedy.
He is. He's funny.
The bits where he's relaying the story.
That's what I love as well. It's brilliant.
That has
isn't
to
it?
actually be one of my favourite things from the whole Marvel universe, is his methodology of telling a story, because it's just brilliant.
They've edited it where he's doing the voices, isn't he? And obviously,
Yeah.
and then there's the cameo with Stan Lee. It's just really good.
It is good.
It is. I mean, the irony is Scott Lang has to bring him back on topic for the story, and he does go around the houses to reach the end of his story. However, he still completes the story quicker than both me and my dad have ever done. That was a genetic thing, but we have some sort of world record for being able to tell the shortest story in the longest manner possible.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was just me that went around the houses.
No, originally I thought it was just me dad, and then there was a time not too long ago where I just caught myself doing exactly the same thing and realised it just must be a Pollard trait.
I feel better.
I now start every story I tell people with a once upon a time, just so they know to get comfortable.
That's a good thing. Just think about how many bedtime
Well, he'll
stories.
be putting the baby to bed every day, won't he?
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
I'm just writing up the contract as we're doing this.
Yeah, thanks.
Baskin Robbins. Ish, you looked when we were
31
watching...
flavours.
Yeah, I mean, you've lived in America for a bit. Do you know Baskin Robbins? It
Yeah.
sounded like you did.
It's also in Dubai as well, and it's got delicious ice cream.
Okay, did you know about this business?
Yeah, from the branding point of view, they've included 31 into the brand, haven't they?
All right, okay.
Baskin Robbins, the 3 is part of B, and then the R is 1.
What was I saying about them stories? Do you know it from you've had one of their milkshakes or?
Oh no,
whatever
I've never eaten any of their
I've
treats.
had their ice creams.
I think he was asking me.
They're delicious. Can't see.
Sorry, back over to our on-site reporter, Ishtar Ali.
They're delicious.
Right, sorry, what was the question again to me?
Are you with me then? We're total noobs.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm familiar with it, as I'm sure you are. Are you?
No, I've never heard of them.
Have you not?
But every American has, and so it is.
back to Ishtar live in
It
the
is a
studio.
funny scene that guy hadn't really understood the concept of it.
I mean, I immediately picked up what type of a place it was just by the costume, which is very fast foody.
You can pretty much identify what the product is by the colours and the uniforms. I mean, Ishtar, we haven't had enough about your opinion on it. What do you think?
It's great. Over to you, Pollard.
The only thing I could think of in this scenario was how... All I could think during this scene was how badly I would serve if I had to work there.
I've seen your portion... It wasn't your portion control, was it? It was the guy we got served by when we got those 3 scoops.
Where was that?
Top Gun.
Oh, yes. That was the Sticky Willy.
I mean, we're having loads of callbacks to our old podcast.
Yeah, go check it out. That was the Top Gun Maverick review.
We literally did the podcast right after watching the film.
Well, I was still on a very big sugar high.
Yeah, if you want to listen to that and then listen to a normal one, you can see the difference. Pollard is literally delirious.
I fit more decibels per second.
Yeah, he managed to...
Decibels, oh my
Syllables.
God. Yes, I get more syllables per second into that show than I have any other podcast.
He was so excited.
I don't even think I was just thinking I was hyper on sugar.
You must have mentioned being a drone pilot about 900 times.
Thank you for dropping that in, just in case no one else knew.
Listen to the podcast.
These
it
are
is
available for hire, by the way.
SquadronMedia.com.
They're not a sponsor of this show, by the way. Just saying.
But neither are Baskin Robbins. We mentioned them about 15 times.
Your wife's got, I love them. In Dubai. What else did he do?
I mean, he served that guy so much better than I could have ever done. I just couldn't have tolerated it. I'd have gone big on.
This is what I was going to say, is if you were serving him, I don't know whether you would have immediately poured it over him or spat in it.
I probably just have walked away because I knew that I'd end up in prison if Had to stand and talk to the moron any longer.
In America as well.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Well, you just get shot, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Did we all expect him to get sacked when he went into the bosses? It was very Office, wasn't it?
Yeah, the whole thing was just really funny. Paul Rudd's just a funny guy, isn't he?
I love him. He's a great actor.
He looks so young, though, for
He
his
hasn't
age.
aged, has he?
The guy doesn't age, period.
Yeah.
No.
From back in whenever he started acting till now.
Like years ago.
Yeah, he's crazy good looking. So.
All right. Sitting here, you know.
Just in case.
Behind the monitor.
Yeah, I'm hiding behind the monitor so you think he can't hear you.
He's just Paul Rudd. It's like watching Robert Downey Jr. trying to be any other character in any other film. He's just Robert Downey Jr. He hasn't got a broad acting range, let's be fair, but you just love him. And Paul Rudd's pretty much the same. I've seen him in so many comedies. It made perfect sense to have him in this.
It's strange because I didn't know anything about Ant-Man, so I had no expectations about what it would be or what the character would be like. It feels like it's a slipper that you've just put on and it instantly it's the right size, it's dead comfy, you don't want to take it off. There is no way I would feel in any way, shape or form that he was unsuitable for that role.
But that's what Marvel do, right, though, don't they? They always seem to find the right character for the right role.
We've mentioned that a few times, that if you look at the characters they've had in Phase 1 and Phase 2, I couldn't see anyone else playing them. Now, for me, I did know who Ant-Man was, and I was trying to work out whether it would be a reimagining of the character. So when I went to see it, I purposely went without any prejudgment, and I was really impressed with how they did it going back to the 80s with the original Ant-Man, and how they then seamlessly explain pin particles are massive in the story. So you can't have Ant-Man without pin particles.
Right.
I was really impressed with how they've handled the actual main OG Ant-Man and then passing it over to Scott Lang.
Yeah. Do we think Darren Cross was properly cast?
Yeah.
Do you see what I did with that segue onto the next scene?
I like
Good
the way.
job.
He's a good villain.
Yeah, he is. He's got a face that's good for being a villain.
Punchable.
Punchable face.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what I'd seen him in.
Well, I know him
before that.
from, what was the one with Kevin Spacey where he's the president?
House of Cards.
Yeah, House of Cards.
He wasn't a villain, but he was politically evil.
I forgot he was in that, you know.
Yeah, it was only the first couple of seasons, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But then I know him from Billions.
That's true.
More recently.
Oh, well, I haven't seen the latest one, so maybe I'm just agreeing with you for no reason. We meet him and we meet Joy Van Dyne.
Hope
Van Dyne. Joy. That'll teach me to make notes, won't it? Write a name properly.
You're doing that thing again. I feel he's better when he's got nothing written down.
Yeah,
and
just
he's
make up on the fly.
Yeah, because if you make it up, you have that confidence behind it, and you're going, yes, that's Joy Van Dyne.
Well, although the irony is, if it's not written down, I don't have the confidence, so I don't commit, which is probably why I'm better able to hide my incompetence. Whereas now I've written it down, I'm committed.
So what did you think of Hope at that point when she's introduced?
Well, I thought Joy was... I mean, I didn't know it was going to be the daughter of Hank Pym because obviously they changed name and they introduced that very quickly to the story. Did you know that, Latham? Is that something from the comics?
Yeah.
And does she have a different name for a reason in the comics? Was it for that reason or...
Well, no, she's called that in the comic.
Why is she called that in the comics? Is it for the same reason as in the film where...
She's that's a daughter.
She's called Van Dyne. Why is she
Yeah.
called Van Dyne and he's called Pym?
Like celebrities tend to not change their married name.
Surely
So
her original name was Pym.
the wife is Van Dyne.
Right.
She hasn't changed her name.
Ah, okay, so they went with Mum's surname.
Yeah.
Okay, that
So
makes
Hank Pym and Wasp, because she was the original OG
Wasp Van Dyne.
Still Van Dyne.
Right.
So like Sting's wife isn't called Mrs. Sting. Is she?
Well, you committed to that, didn't you? If you think Mark might be wrong, then please get in touch on our social media platforms, Facebook
What's
or
Sting's
Instagram
real name?
or Twitter.
I don't know what his name. I'm thinking of his wife's name's Trudy Styler, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's not Mrs. Sting, is it?
No, it's
So
not
what I'm
Mrs.
saying
Sting.
is celebrities tend to keep their own names.
Like
their brand.
Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Exactly, yeah. Hope Van Dyne is the daughter of Hank Pym and his mum.
I've got Joy in your head now, haven't
You
I?
have.
You genuinely looked down at your notes then, didn't you?
You've ruined me.
I'm just going to keep saying it until eventually you're ruined forever. Did you know he was going to be Yellow Jacket from the offset? And I say that as though I knew who Yellow Jacket was going to be.
I didn't know that because Yellow Jacket isn't a villain in the comics.
Oh, okay, so this is a brand new villain.
They've adapted Yellow Jacket. For those fans of comics, Yellow Jacket is another name given to Ant-Man.
Oh, okay.
This is a combination of a mix-up or mash-up of the Yellow Jacket that was stolen by Rita Damara, who stole Hank Pym's Yellow Jacket suit. She used that to become Yellow Jacket. Then she became a superhero who joined as an Avenger. Also, notably, was a Guardian of the Galaxy. So I think what they've done with the movie is a combination of taking a suit that was created by Hank Pym, which was the Yellow Jacket suit, and then obviously they've taken the comic book villain Rita Damara, made it this character for the movie. And they do this. MCU do isn't always following the exact curvature of the stories in the comics. What they'll do is they'll take a story and they might adapt it, and they've done this pretty much with the whole Ant-Man film. I'll explain later why they've done that.
Alright, even though his suit's red and silver. Does he wear a high-vis vest?
No.
Yellow jacket.
Yellow jacket.
Yeah, no, but if it's a nickname for Ant-Man, does he have like an away kit in the comic books?
No, Ant-Man's is red and silver, but Yellow Jacket, which is the other suit that he created, wasn't. It was yellow, hence why he called it Yellow Jacket. And in the comics, Yellow Jacket is a superhero who can also control the Yellow Jacket's insects. As I already said, he obviously has several suits, a bit like Iron Man, which is why he's probably got those different names. So one of those would be the Yellow Jacket suit, and someone's originally gone, oh look, there's Yellow Jacket, similar to when he's called himself Ant-Man. But yeah, that's the reason.
Let's not go bug down into the minutiae.
I feel I'm getting retribution because he's calling Joy Van Dyne.
Got like 19 months of pent up meanness in my system.
I'm feeling it. They've used obviously the colours from the comics for that costume, obviously updating it. So they've made yellow. Anyway, Darren Cross is the villain, Yellow Jacket. Yeah.
And then we move on to the Peanuts birthday party.
Oh, how cute is she?
She is cute with no front teeth.
Yeah. Oh.
You're talking about his daughter.
The daughter is very cute.
We know who she is, don't we?
We do.
Who is she?
Peanuts.
Statue.
Huh?
Statue.
Who's Thatcher?
She's the superhero in this comic.
Oh, interesting.
It's an Easter egg, but yeah.
Okay.
Young Avenger.
Yeah, but it's a nice scene, that, because it obviously shows the dad side of Ant-Man and how much he cares for his daughter and what he's willing to do for her.
I think it's quite nice that they have mum and stepdad in there and they don't portray them as arseholes. There's logical reason for why everyone has the position that they want to be in, albeit there's a little bit of tension between everyone. It's dealt with relatively amicably.
Yeah, they've done it well.
It's too easy to paint like the step parent as the baddie.
Low hanging fruit.
Yeah, the mother's stopping him from seeing his daughter, so she's evil, or he's a downbeat dad who's just a waste of space and shouldn't have access to his. You know, there's those easy tropes, and that could easily bring down the levity of this film, because this is quite a light-hearted film. I mean, even the big scene at the end where there's explosions and shit, it's done on such a minute scale.
It's not Kramer versus Kramer, is it? It's a family film. Yes, there's always going to be tension between the ex-husband and the new husband/boyfriend, and when there's a child in the mix, you don't want to be using that as a bargaining chip. That would have massively shifted the whole tonality of the film. And the other thing as well, it's not about that, is it?
No.
That's just part of the backstory, because then you think, well, how has he become estranged from the family if he's been in prison? And even they've dealt that as him being like a cat burglar. He's not like a murderer.
Yeah.
You've moved then into him being a villain, which is not what you're trying to paint the picture of. Dealt with that really well. That made it funnier for the latter part of the film, which you're alluding to, and so it works really well, because there's always going to be tension, but because he's a funny character, there's that unspoken words of one-upmanship, isn't there, but done in a bantery way.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we come to the tip that Louis mentions. Louis. Pick one, stick with it, that he gives about stealing from the safe, which we've already touched upon, but this obviously leads to the mad skills breaking.
Well, I got Ocean's 11 vibes when they were trying to prepare for that heist or whatever.
I wonder if that was inspiration for it.
Yeah.
You know,
possibly,
because that'd be quite clever, because I quite like Ocean's 11.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love a good caper film?
Oh, absolutely. And he does really well, whatever you think of Scott Lang, because up to this point he's been a very humorous character. Obviously he's come out of prison, so you don't think much of him. He's worked in a milkshake shop, so that's whatever.
Get it right, like Pollard.
I'll be on the way round again 1 second. I feel like I'm doing this podcast on a...
Well, you should explain it. Latham's sitting on a rotating stool, which he hasn't quite mastered yet.
I didn't realise you need to have like the core abs.
That's why we've
of
got
an
it.
athlete.
Yeah.
When I go home here, I'll be in agony. My abs will be the size of an Olympic gymnast.
I just lean on the desk and then he doesn't spin round. But if Latham suddenly gets quieter mid-sentence, it's because the mic's staying where it is and Latham isn't.
You'll catch me on the next rotation.
But yeah, he works in the milkshake / ice cream place, then goes to his daughter's birthday party, which doesn't particularly go great. When it comes to the breaking in, you don't really have any expectations. There's no belief that this person's got any skills that warrant.
And then he does the fingerprint thing.
Well, he does all of it, doesn't he? He does the finger. You like that, didn't you?
I loved it. That was a brilliant idea, that. And then obviously he puts the water and the hydrogen into the safe. Yeah, very clever.
Interesting, you got the word hydrogen and water, but couldn't think of the word safe there.
Oh, is it hydrogen? hydrogen or something.
Oh, is it?
else,
Is it hydrogen peroxide? Have you been watching CSI? Have you, love?
Hydrogen
the cold
peroxide is
thing?
the
Is
stuff
it
you put in your
nitrogen?
hair.
Or your ears if you got earwax.
Nitrogen.
Yeah, is it nitrogen? I mean, listen, I don't know.
One of the
I think the
gens.
point Layden was trying to make was that you went all chemical and
He did.
chemistry
You went on chemistry and I went in that box with the metal door.
that you can't open.
You can't open.
He was clever.
He was clever.
Yeah.
Or was he? Because ultimately Hank Pym was watching him and had deliberately enticed them to break in, so I'm assuming he didn't make it too hard for them to get in.
Yeah, it was all planned.
I mean, he did, though. It was still difficult, but he knew that he could handle it, obviously.
Whatevs.
He believed.
He did. Then we move on to Darren Cross / the Yellow Jacket displaying his experimenting methods to try and perfect the Pym particle. Now, this particularly upset me as a Yorkshireman. For those non-UK listeners,
You will have to explain, won't you?
we'll have to explain. There is a long-running joke that people from Yorkshire, which is a county in the UK, have a penchant for the woolly variety of animal. Us and the Welsh usually get the whole sheep fiddlers joke. Yes, I generally live up to that. No.
Wait, do you want to just
No, don't. I'm leaving that in.
rephrase that?
Yeah, sorry. I go along with the joke. I have never, for the record, I have never.
Never have I ever.
Will never fiddle with a sheep.
But he has fisted a cow.
She gave consent.
You're so dead. I hope you choke on your drink.
And funnily enough, it ended up in a pile of snot. Oh dear.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
We went there.
we did go.
They'll be
We've
on
not lost
they'll
our
be on the
touch.
couch again.
Every time you do a podcast, like, I remember that time I had a lovely warm bed. It's podcast time, guys.
Yeah, whenever Laven's here and we're podcasting, Pollard ends up on the couch.
That's why you only record every 6 months. It takes that long for me back to
Exactly.
put back into place.
To end up back in the bed.
Any chiropractors out there want to be a sponsor of the show, get in touch.
Oh dear. The other thing I like to do is put a suit on in the bathroom, which is the next scene. I mean, why the bathroom?
Because he wanted to see what he looked like and maybe he's not got a full length mirror anywhere else.
Well, you put it on in the bedroom and then walk into the bathroom to look in the mirror.
He did stand in the bath, didn't he?
Well, the only reason you'd have it with you in the bathroom and not already be wearing it is because you're having a shit and you want to just like look at the instruction manual while you're procrastinating.
Yeah. The logical thought I came to for why he was doing that was, they say, don't they, if there's an explosion or things like that.
Are we talking about the suit?
If you've had a really bad curry, they say if there's an explosion to hide in the bath.
And then no one knows it were you.
Yeah, because you can push it down with your hands, can't you? Put the shower on.
That's so gross. You boys are so gross.
We've all been there.
No, we haven't.
Trust me then.
Oh dear.
If you've ever messed yourself, the bath is probably the best place to just stand in and wipe yourself down. No, I'm assuming he's gone in there because have you not seen what's the one with Mel Gibson?
Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, have you not seen Lethal Weapon when he?
Oh
pulls,
yeah, for the bomb.
yeah, when he pulls him off the toilet. Not in that way. When he sits on the toilet, doesn't? Have you seen the film?
Yeah,
You're gonna
but
say.
a really long time ago.
Oh, I forgot how old you were.
So Danny Glover's character is sat on the toilet and someone's put a bomb under his toilet. Mel Gibson's character goes in. They realise there's not they can do to disarm it. The only thing they can do is leap into the bath. So when it explodes, they're protected.
Yeah, he's sat on it, triggering the bomb. As soon as he comes off it, bomb will go off and explode.
I still think my explanation is the right explanation.
I mean, it's definitely cleaner.
Yeah, it is. To be fair, there wouldn't be any evidence left, would there? What was your explanation?
That might have been the only mirror in the house because
No.
the boys live there.
No, that's wrong.
Okay, well.
If a boy lives there, there's no mirrors at all.
At all. And who stands in the bath to look at a full-length mirror?
No,
Well,
it wasn't
I
a full
know.
length. I'm actually remembering it wasn't a full length. He was trying to get a better view of himself, so he stood in the bath to get higher up
And
in
then
the
he shut the
mirror.
curtain.
Oh, why did he have this mirror if he has to stand in the bath to reach
Yeah, but he
it?
closed the curtain.
Can we move past the bath?
Past the bath.
The bath.
Can you say it properly first of all?
Can we move past the bath, please?
The path. Well, I'm going to go back to Joy Van Dyne.
Why?
Because I haven't heard it for a while. I just thought it was funny. But he did shut the shower curtain. Was the mirror behind the shower curtain?
No, because
he
the friend
shut that because his mate came in. Although who could go to the toilet while you're mid-session?
Yeah, what session are you up to?
Well, any session. You normally assume they might be doing a number 2.
Yeah.
But if you've taken a costume into the bathroom,
why do we
knows?
need to be talking about a number 2 at all?
Because we're keeping it real.
He's in the bathroom.
He's not near the toilet, though.
He was fully clothed as well.
He's pushing his buttons in the bathroom.
Stop it.
I think he's turtling.
Well, he ends up down the drain anyway, doesn't it?
He does. Good move.
Thank you.
Yeah, he pushes a button, then he shrinks down, doesn't he?
He does.
It's all very exciting at that point.
I think he thought the alternative was going to happen.
It was very Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Well,
yes.
I'm glad you mentioned that because one of the massive Easter eggs, which I haven't made a note of, it's not an Easter egg, it's a fact actually. Stan Lee wanted to make Ant-Man in the 1980s.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for some reason he wasn't able to, and then Honey, I Shrunk the Kids came out, which scuppered his future plans.
Fabulous movie, by the way. I still watch that.
It's alright. The second one's a bit silly, isn't it?
Yeah, well, and then it's I, Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. I mean, to be fair, that's got the wrong connotations.
Nowadays it does.
Well, that's Honey, I Blew Off the Kid, but again...
That's even worse connotations. He gets arrested.
He does, but not in the drain.
No. Well, that'd just be silly.
Yeah.
Because why would the police be in the toilet?
Let the toilet go, Mark.
That's what the police said to him.
Lol. Yeah, he gets arrested and gets broken out, doesn't he?
Yes.
By Hank, who seems to have some mad skills with the ants.
I thought it was funny that he said, I think this is a job for the Avengers. That tickled me.
And then he went, no.
Yeah. I've been trying to get away from whatever.
Yeah.
That was nice.
Well, yeah, because Ant-Man, not specifically Easter egg, people who know the comics, was with one of the founder members of Avengers, so he's in the original rota.
So when did Hank Pym's Ant-Man come to be? Because they referenced the Soviet Union. I'm assuming he only came to be after Cap was iced.
What they're trying not to do is get bogged down in too much backstory and exposition.
This is where there's probably a little bit of deviation from the comics into the MCU, specifically because Hank Pym's story is one of an abuser, someone who's pretty angry. What you've got in the MCU is just the backstory to a point and then handing over the baton to Lang. Because Captain America was a 1940s propaganda character in the comics and Hank Pym's character was a 1960s character introduced in the comics, obviously what they've got to do is update the story to allow the time, so which is why I'm assuming they've used Soviet Russia, which would have been around the 80s, and then give the impression that whilst he was a consultant to S.H.I.E.L.D., there would be probably crossover into the Weapon X program and other programs that are being run by S.H.I.E.L.D. or in fact Howard Stark from Stark Industries. With the films, they've tried to update it because his backstory is so dark, that wouldn't have made for a good film.
What Marvel have done very cleverly is they've taken the character that's been around for a long time, put him in the movie, passed the baton on. Scott Lang will continue to do that with Hank Pym being a mentor.
Scott Lang can do it for like a million years because he's played by Paul Rudd.
Exactly.
He will still look the same when he's 90.
Exactly. Like they've done with Howard Stark, they've thrown him into the mix to say around the same time as Captain America was around, you had Hank Pym and you had Howard Stark and others who were the OG people behind the scenes within S.H.I.E.L.D. doing their stuff.
Hank Pym actually says something quite interesting about why he can't be Ant-Man anymore.
There's many reasons.
Yeah, many reasons. One of the key ones I took was that it takes a toll on you after years of wearing it, which seemed like a really big hint. Bearing in mind, Marvel very rarely say anything without there being some significance about it. It doesn't suggest, well, I suppose it deals with the issue of whilst Paul Rudd may look young forever, technically his character will probably at some point have his brain coming out of his nose in a snot-like form because he's used it for too long and too frequently.
In the comic, the actual Ant-Man character was massively flawed. He had a bout of schizophrenia, mental instability, short temper, bipolar, and ended up in spousal abuse.
Oh, wow.
Which is fundamentally why when they made the film, they made it clear that he wouldn't be the main character because they didn't think it was wholesome enough. All those things are valid, by the way. I don't know what it's like to go dead small and be massive all the time and the psychological trauma that takes on you when you're dealing with things like that. I don't think they wanted an MCU film to be focusing on spousal abuse. So they've made...
It brings the lols down.
Yeah,
it
kind of does.
it?
But yeah, it's not something you bring up at a party at some point going, oh, I love beating my wife. So they've made him a mentor, like Tony Stark, and Nick Fury.
They quite helpfully remove the wife completely, don't they?
Yes.
Mrs. Van Dyne gets disappeared on mission, which I suppose hopefully nicely removes her from having to be subjected to the comic book Hank Pym.
They've not focused on that at all, actually. They've made it more wholesome. It's all about family, really.
This film seems to take the tropes of lots of different movies. So you've got sort of an Ocean's 11 type break-in when he breaks into Hank Pym's house. You then have a Rocky type scene with the whole training on becoming small. Do you think you could get the hang of that, Ish?
Of course. With some practice. Yeah, it'd be very enjoyable. Would you like to be small, Pollard?
I already am.
Well, I'd like to be big, as she said.
No, I think it's a cool superpower to have, isn't it?
Could you work with ants that closely?
Yeah, I don't do rodents.
What about uncles?
Spiders.
Spiders.
Shouldn't do spiders either.
I mean,
Really?
I don't mind Daddy Longlegs, but...
Who's that? That's some guy that comes round.
It's definitely not me.
Yeah, I don't mind daddy long legs.
But anything more gross than a Daddy Longlegs, no. An ant you could manage.
How is a daddy long legs less gross than a spider?
Yeah, but isn't daddy long
Because
legs
a
just
Daddy
mostly
Longlegs
legs?
has got long legs and less of a body, whereas they've got a bigger body that's more scary
What?
and needs to be sucked up in a hoover.
Again, I can say that about a few people, but daddy long legs is just mostly legs with a big, huge like
That's
zip.
why it's not as scary.
I know, but he catch you quicker.
No, but they're more feeble, aren't they?
Yeah, but have you seen the size of you? What size mouth has a daddy long legs got?
Don't know.
It'd take ages to
So
eat
they
you.
reckon that daddy longlegs are the most poisonous animals on the planet
No,
if they
they
could
are.
actually bite.
In real life, you mean like a
Yeah,
mouth?
yeah,
like a,
no,
like
in real life,
like
yeah.
a human-sized mouth.
They've got a poison inside them that would kill you pretty much instantly. Now, that could just be a wives' tale, but Google it.
Well, I'm going to say is National Geographic. If you need someone to work for you, that's your man right there.
Or if you'd like to sponsor this very factual show, the 2 marks at thepodsstation.co.uk.
I think what he's saying is if a daddy long legs was the size of a human and they bit you, I mean, to be fair, that would be the least of your worries because it's the fact that they're the size of a human. Their legs would be even bigger, wouldn't they? Imagine that.
Yeah.
That'd be like a bald man chasing you down the beach.
Yeah.
With lots of legs.
Nice visual.
Now, Hope, I nearly said Joy. Hope, when he wakes up in their house after the jailbreak, there's all those bullet ants on the floor and they're supposed to be super painful, like 10 on the Richter scale, she says. So he has to really carefully walk from the bed into the dining room in order to not step on these really wicked ants. How she managed to get from A to B? Because isn't it just Hank who has the earpiece thing that controls the ants?
He does, yeah.
So do they just move out of her way in the same way?
It could be possibly to do with the fact that they've got a similar technology, I don't know.
Maybe there's 2 pieces and we only see one at that
Maybe.
later on.
Yeah, well,
But the
random.
point is that, like, Hope, you don't really have much of an opinion of Hope, really, up to this point, and then you see her fight scene, don't you? When she's training Ant-Man.
Well, that brings a nice topic into the equation, which is, what do you think of her character generally in this film? Because a lot of people felt she was really underserved.
That was what the feedback was.
Oh, are you talking to me?
I think he's talking to you because you're
Oh, I'm trying to get you involved.
All right, well, I can't see your face, so I don't know if you're talking to me or talking to Ethan. What was the question again?
It was a Hope Van Dyne underserved.
Yeah, I do. I mean, she was a bit of a side character. I wasn't sure if I would like her or not from the get-go because she's seen to be a little bit of a baddie. She doesn't like her dad very much. She gives Scott Lang a bit of a hard time because she wants to be the Ant-Man or Ant-Woman, whatever. But then she goes into this fight scene and she softens herself towards Scott, and I think that makes it nicer for people watching to say, okay, he's a good guy, treat him as a good guy. And I think when she starts to soften towards him, that's when I started to soften towards her a little bit too. And she's tough, and that's nice. We've been talking all this series about the lack of strong female characters, and I think the fact that she's like physically tough is a nice thing.
It is, but I feel she was quite underserved. She was a bit of a vehicle. I guess this isn't her film as such.
No, there's also a lot to carry as well in one film, isn't there? And then at this point, you've just got Hope Van Dyne as the estranged daughter. Nobody's established that she's going to become anything other than the daughter of Hank Pym.
Yeah, no, I get that, but if you go to Captain America Winter Soldier, you've got Black Widow in that, and obviously the story's about Cap, and there's an awful lot of other people and characters going on in that film. I feel that Black Widow, Natasha, was better served in that film than, say, Hope was in this film in terms of being given useful stuff to do, which sort of showcased her skill sets, because even though she's not the Wasp yet, because obviously post-credits will come to, she does still have, I'm going to keep using it because Louis, whatever, said she's got mad skills when it comes to fighting.
There is a huge focus on trying to pick up on strong female characters, but they've always been there, just people haven't been looking for them.
And the story's not about her anyway, it's about Scott, I think, so it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
It makes sense to have her in the movie because where does the movie go? How does the movie grow and develop? How do these characters develop that you've fallen in love with if they don't have somewhere to go to? They may well have purposely done that because you want to know more. If she's played the character well enough And I think all the characters in this film are ones that you go, I'd really like to come for a family meal with these people and have the lols. Cheeky technology when you go for a pie dinner and the pie is dead small, like a 10 pence piece, and then you make it massive fat pie. I don't think Paynton Reed, when he's directing his films, going, what we really must do is make sure a lot of women are represented in this film, because then it distracts from what the story is. In real life, Ishtar's not the main character in your story, is she? Well, technically she is.
Oh,
she's not the main character in my. She's not the main character in my story.
Am I off the couch yet?
Not yet. Still dig.
Well, this film has to serve a lot of masters, give the new viewer an understanding of who these characters are, and then move it on to the next film. And to people who know the comics, will want to see how they play with these characters. And it's called Ant-Man. It's not called Ant-Man and anything else, is it? Louis' wonderful storytelling. It's Ant-Man. Yes, there will be females and different characters in this film. I think the reason why Black Widow was served better was because actually Black Widow as a character is already established.
Yeah.
She's an actual character.
Fair enough. Speaking of Black Widow, featuring alongside her in the Captain America Winter Soldier film was Falcon, who we meet in this film when Scott has to break into the Avengers building, not the SHIELD building, as I previously made the mistake of saying, when they break into the Avengers building. Now, I don't know how you felt about this, Ish, but this felt as though the budget had stretched as far as it could go, so they brought in a category D Avenger.
Yeah, but I was just excited to see an Avenger in the film because it links it. I like it when these films have characters from other films in them, so up until this point there'd been no other reference really other than Tony Stark's dad, so even though it was only Falcon, I was still excited that it was Falcon.
But we had seen this building before.
I know, they want anyone else. Everyone else was on, and I'm doing air quotes here for the listeners' benefit, was on holiday or somewhere else. Even though the biggest, most important buildings of the Avengers was being broken into by someone, there was only Falcon who was there.
Guarding it, which is a bit weird. If you've listened to our other podcasts regarding Falcon, well, I don't rate him personally. He's just a man with Tony Stark's technology.
Yeah.
So Tony Stark's giving him some wings.
But maybe that's why they've all buggered off on holiday and left him walking around on the roof doing the shit jobs.
I think that's tying into what is going to come after this film. It was quite cool that it's on the back of Age of Ultron, given what you will find out in a minute, how this movie ties into Age of Ultron, and the fact that that building was seen in Age of Ultron as a Stark Industries industrial unit that is being developed to be the new headquarters for the Avengers. I think that was quite nice tie-in. This is the thing, it's lifting a lot of stuff to move this forward, so the film can't afford to get bogged down in all these things. It has to be quickly going, here's Falcon, by the way, and make sense of why he's trying to break in, and then introduce these people along the way. So when you see the next film, you go, okay, it makes sense.
Does this show how shit Falcon is?
Yes.
Because given we've just said that Falcon is just a normal person but with Tony Stark's technology, arguably Scott Lang is just a normal person but with Hank Pym's technology, but he wins this fight, which technically means he's cooler and more badass-ish.
Agreed.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there.
Or Falcon. Hit Falcon on the head.
With a giant Pym
Zinger.
particle. I would even go as far as saying that Hank Pym's technology for Scott Lang is far better than what Tony Stark's given him. It's like Tony Stark's rummaged around in an old project that hasn't been finished and gone, here, I have these filthy wings.
Well, it's probably the leftovers from the Iron Man suit, in it? That's the things he didn't need, and he's just giving it to Falcon.
Yeah. I was going to put an Iron Man suit with wings on. Didn't really work out. Have these.
Yeah.
Funny.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
That's all you've given him is a harness with jetpacks.
Who are the other D character Avengers then that fall in line with Falcon?
Rhodey. I'd call Rhodey category D1.
Okay.
Are we saying ones that have just inherited Tony Stark's technology?
Well, the new ones, and I say they're a bit shit, maybe they've not been fleshed out properly at this stage, but they're not as interesting. Rhodey's not particularly that interesting. Definitely put Falcon in there as being not particularly interesting.
Rhodey has literally just inherited his Mark 1 suit that's been updated to War Machine.
I mean, I'm looking through my ginormous list of top 10.
Yeah, 400 characters.
Yeah, and actually those are only the two that we've met who I would probably categorise as
Wanda
that.
we've met.
She wasn't too bad though. She wasn't...
Vision.
She wasn't properly fleshed out.
When you
at the
see
moment.
D characters, do you mean ones that we haven't seen much of, or ones that actually aren't that powerful because they have inherited stuff?
The ones who would end up as a really shit cameo because they're cheaper to bring in and hire. That's what I'm talking. I'm talking the ones who end up on Love Island.
Right, okay.
Or Strictly Come Dancing. You know, them ones.
Quicksilver.
Well, he's dead now, so he ain't going on any show, is he?
You wouldn't have a wage bill in, would you? So
No.
he's quite cheap.
I mean, Wanda hasn't been properly fleshed out, nor has Vision particularly. Vision's got powers because he's an Infinity Stone, so you can't put him in the category of Falcon.
No.
Wanda's got mad skills, so you can't put her in the Falcon category. Even Quicksilver, I mean, he's super fast, isn't he?
Not that fast.
Not anymore because he's dead, but...
I mean, the point is, if you compare all the category D characters, then they're all pretty much the same, then, aren't they, really?
Yeah. I mean, basically anyone who could be replaced by me wearing what it is, although I get travel sick if I had those wings. It's great because Falcon gets his ass kicked by Scott Lang, Ant-Man.
Yes.
And this takes us on to Ocean's 12. In the film. I absolutely loved when they bring in his crew to help with this.
And he shrinks in front of his friends.
Yeah, and
that's
they say,
so funny.
put Louis to bed with a Xanax.
Yeah. It's brilliant, that. The friends are such a lovely group of friends as well, although they're all, ex-con or whatever. They've obviously come together to help Scott out. So I think that also keeps it nice and light-hearted. It's not heavy in any way.
It keeps it real. If you had those skills, if you had the Ant-Man suit, how long would it be before you had to tell people? Would you last like an hour before you got so excited that you had to tell someone?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd be great with those secrets.
I definitely wouldn't. I'd tell everyone before I got the suit.
You tell people the birthday presents the day you've bought
I
them.
know, I get excited.
Do you want to know your birthday present? No.
Yes.
But are you sure you don't want your birthday present? No, I'll wait till my birthday. Yeah, but it's really good. Nope, still fine.
I'm shit at keeping secrets when it's something exciting.
You'd know if he had the Ant-Man suit because you'd find him standing up in the bath.
Don't come in, love, I'm on the toilet. I might explode.
Gross.
But you would have your close friends who would know, and that's why that works really well, because he's told his little mates, and now you've got this gang who are doing this heist.
Yeah, it's cool. Now they're dealing with Hydra because when Darren Cross brings his pals in to do his murky little deal, it turns out it's Hydra that he's doing it.
How exciting.
Well, that's what he said, because I was a bit confused. The Winter Soldier, it felt, I know Hydra is if you cut one head off to replace it or whatever. He said it was Hydra. Is it not Hydra? What?
10 rings.
Is that what you think it is?
I'm only saying that because there's a tattoo on his arm with the 10 rings tattoo.
Whose arm?
The terrorist guy who he's given the suit technology to.
So the guy who was in S.H.I.E.L.D. that got punched by...
So when he handed him the documents or whatever, the 10 rings tattoo.
No.
How many times have you seen this film?
We have to go back and watch that again.
I mean, that's just mad skills, isn't it?
That is super. Oh no, I didn't catch that at all.
That's why we have Liv on this show.
Yeah, proving his
So
worth.
Darren Cross is trying to sell the technology that Hank Pym came up with.
So why are they portraying themselves as Hydra? Is that to hide the fact that the 10 rings?
If you're following the storyline, Hydra has been quite integral into what's been happening within the MCU, and if you wanted to include it, the TV shows that dip into the MCU, especially with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. A character that appears in that appears in some of the films.
Because he was obviously in S.H.I.E.L.D. at the beginning and got punched, and we're now assuming he was always, say, a Hydra double agent, or he was a 10 rings double agent.
The 10 rings are, with them being more of a terrorist organisation, they have obviously used that maybe as a, pardon the pun, a shield to hide behind, because Hydra go back to World War I, World War II as an organisation that have just infiltrated all the different levels of government within America. It would make sense that because the Hydra storylines kind of coming to an end, now it just means that if you were to look back in various movies across Phase 1 and Phase 2, that actually 10 rings have always been there. The fact that they've had subtle representation.
Because you've mentioned them in Iron Man a couple of times, haven't you?
The fact that you haven't picked up on that indicates that when they come to do whatever they're thinking of that we don't know, but we kind of do know, you know where this has gone. So when you watch those films, you go, oh my word, I can't believe that way back in Ant-Man.
Well, we wouldn't do, because we didn't know it was the tattoo in the first place, did we?
Marvel is so good at hiding these little jelly beans.
All that hard
in
work
plain
just
view.
wasted on idiots like us.
Yeah.
Well, but then you go back and you go, oh yeah, or you won't. You'll have watched the film for the 25th time and gone, didn't even see that. I think that's what it is. There can become a point where it's just villain fatigue, you know, when it's the same people all the time. And you've seen it in various TV shows when they get to find out who the villain is, and it's the same baddie that's been the baddie from 15 series ago. Like with Doctor Who, every time the storyline gets boring, they bring out the Daleks or the Cybermen. And I like the Daleks and the Cybermen, but at some point you're going to have to come up with a better villain that you don't use to bring back your fan base.
Yeah, I'm not a Doctor Who fan, but the Daleks always used to scare the living crap out of me.
Yeah, I mean,
Even though they'd only move.
You can't go upstairs.
They can't do stairs, and they can only go so fast.
They look like those washing bins you used to put your dirty washing in. You tipped it upside down. I used to pretend I was a Dalek when I was a child. We won't get into that.
We actually find that the Pym particle can do other things that make people super small, because they can make stuff super big. I would absolutely buy into this when Hank whips out his keyring and makes his tank keyring go full size. I mean, seriously, the cool stuff you could do with that.
You wouldn't need to pay for parking, would you?
Oh my, I hadn't even thought of that.
Not that you would drive a tank in town. I mean, I would, just to one of those bell ends who park on... Do you know all the ones who park on double yellows who can't park park, like the back end of the car's in the middle of the road.
Although, for the record, I do slightly park wonky on purpose because it puts people off parking next to me. Because people keep dinking my car because they can't drive and they're idiots. So I figured if I park wonky over the line, they'll go, oh, I can't fit my car in, and go and park somewhere else instead of dinking my car.
It'll be the bell end I'm talking about.
Well, we knew I was the bell end to begin with. This just adds to the reasons why you should think that entirely.
If you had the thing, you'd make it dead tiny, put on a keyring.
Yeah.
What happens though if you lose your
you lose your car. Yeah, you're losing like your umpteen tens of thousands of pounds car.
And then somebody then accidentally activates it in someone's house.
Just take out the front living room wall.
Yeah.
I noticed my wife didn't jump in to correct you when we were calling me a bell end.
Do we need to refer to the cow joke that we talked about earlier?
Well, I think we'll be fighting for the couch because I feel you should have to sit on the couch, not standing up for
The wife is never on the couch.
That a rule? I'm just going to write that into the contract. Hang on. Now, technology would be so cool. I'm trying to think whether it appears in another film because I can't talk about it if it does. Let's just say that the amount of things you could shrink down to save space. Like your in-laws. You know, like your in-laws just turn up, just shrink them down.
He loves his in-laws.
Yeah, I do.
All right.
I'm getting off this couch with it kills me or not.
He's doing his best, in fairness. He's literally scraping the bottom barrel. But if you want to write into us, I don't know whether in the 1990s.
If you want to send us a fax.
Or a telex. If you want to get us on CFAX, we're on page 642.
There's millennials sitting going, so you what?
Yeah. How did they get in touch with us? I've forgotten.
You can email us at the 2 marks at thepodstation.co.uk. On Facebook, Instagram or Twitter, it's at the 2 marks. Just DM us.
Yeah, tell us if you like your in-laws. I feel like it's lost its cohesion as a joke scene as I've had to explain what 1980s technology is.
Speaking of family, Anthony gets done in. I genuinely was sad about this. I thought he'd come back to life or that he just temporarily lost consciousness and came round again. I'm genuinely devastated that he's no more.
Isn't it interesting how the MCU creates characters that you fall in love with that have no value in life at all? So you have Groot that people love. I was going to say Grogu.
That's an entirely different franchise.
Yeah. Still Disney. Now an ant.
But the only thing that humanises this ant is the fact that Scott Lang names it. We don't see any particular personality traits or character traits from the ant itself. By virtue of it flying him around, you feel you can perhaps perceive that, but actually it's just an ant doing an ant thing. But because he names it Anthony, we get a personal attachment to it.
I mean, you could argue indentured labour.
Slavery, because he's not paid.
No, and he's basically got technology that's telling him what you need to do.
Ooh, yeah, we're going really dark. It's not as light film as we thought, is it?
No.
I mean, do you love Anthony?
Slavery. Do you love slavery?
Do you love Anthony? Ish, and did you notice the huge amount of torture and control that he was
I feel like your love affair
to?
with Anthony was a bit weird, to be honest.
Really? Weren't you bothered when he got killed?
No.
Wow.
You're too hard.
Minor character.
I mean, would you call him a character?
Yeah, because he's been given a name.
Oh, I see. That's the rule. Is this going to be on your top 10?
Maybe.
Well, in fairness, he was in the film longer than Thanos, and that's on his list.
Oh, actually, no, it's on your list.
It's on her list, yeah, it is.
Yeah. Only because you followed suit, because you gagged in on my plan. Because I had Ronan, and on that note, he went, I think I'll have Thanos, because he appeared as a purple head on a 10-second. Yeah. Bet you he's on Pollard's. I bet you any money Anthony's on your list.
He probably is.
He will be. I mean, man with a bucket will probably be on his list. If they name someone washing up down the local cafe, Baskin Robbins, the guy there who sacks him, is on his list.
The manager.
That whole fight scene with Ant-Man getting in there and rallying all the ants and stuff like that is just brilliant, isn't it? It's really like the capability of all of him pulling everybody together and doing all of the plan with his buddies outside before they get into the helicopter and all that stuff happens. It's really good.
I mean, you're saying that, but the ants were doing all the work. Shouldn't they get some of the credit there? Including Anthony, who's dead, who you don't care about.
I do think it plays to the fact that they're using nature and how ants are as a group dynamic.
Yeah.
Ants aren't individualistic characters, are they? They work as team.
Collective.
So they're a collective entity, which is cool. The fact that you think Ant-Man on his own, apart from the fact that he can do all the shrinking and growing stuff, actually can talk to the animals like Dr. Dolittle, isn't he?
They make ants look cool. There's not been a film that has made ants look cool, but they are
Apart
cool.
from the film Ants.
Yeah.
And The Bug's Life.
Yeah. And even, I suppose, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, because that ant was defending him from the,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And every nature programme.
Oh, shut up.
But apart from all of those, there hasn't been a film that talks about ants at all.
Okay, I'll retract.
One of the things I did like about this film, moving swiftly on before I've spent a week on the couch, I really liked the third act in this film because it wasn't universe saving. There wasn't the world will be destroyed if this goes wrong. The main fight scene takes place on the Thomas the Tank Engine toy set, and they even make fun of the fact that they're throwing the toys around, and then it pans out and shows the actual plastic toy sort of bouncing quite gently on.
It's brilliant.
I like that. DC could have probably learnt an awful lot from
Just that scene
alone.
Well, absolutely. Apart from the fact that they managed to get the rights to Thomas the Tank Engine to be included, I believe Peyton Reed, who was the director, specifically asked them if he could include it, and they were like, yeah, go to the cinema to watch it, don't you? First of all, we've seen it in the cinema, and you've got a huge screen where there's a massive fight going on between Yellow Jacket and Ant-Man, and then it pans out and it's just boo boo boo, thinking it's huge cinematic explosions, and literally if you're watching it on a train track, it's just love it.
Genuinely thought it was great. Did you like that one, Ish?
Did, definitely.
There was a bit more of a Dick Dastardly. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
The cartoon.
And Muttley.
Yeah. So there's like more of a help Penelope pit stop.
No, it's a brilliant fight scene.
Who does he tie to the tracks?
I don't know.
Who?
Have I just made that up?
Well, it was Penelope Pitstop they always tried to capture, wasn't it?
Penelope Pitstop's the one who's always
But it was
been...
the wacky races.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
But in the film, doesn't he tie someone to the track so the Thomas the Tank Engine runs over her?
No.
That would be a good ending. I've just written there.
No, I think you've just written that in, but that would have been a good addition to the film, frankly.
Yeah, I think so. It would have added some level of loss there, wouldn't it?
I think, wasn't it Yellow Jacket fell over on or was knocked to the rail tracks and he thought he was going to get run over by the train.
Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yeah, and it just goes...
Yeah, it's very cool. Really well done.
And very unique.
Makes use of the space. So you're looking at it from a perspective of their miniaturized size, and then it pans out to normal size, and you're like, oh, what's the big deal? Then again, it's a fight scene that you think should be traumatic to watch, but actually the whole thing's quite funny, isn't it?
Yeah, because Yellow Jacket actually looks quite scary when he first is in Cassie's bedroom, and then it turns out that they do this.
Well, any
fighting.
strange man in your kid's bedroom's a little bit scary, particularly if he's not invited.
Okay, yeah, true.
Wearing any kind of costume.
True.
I think she's ordering a Just Eat. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Yeah.
No, I'm
I feel
not.
we've lost you.
She's doing Sudoku.
It keeps the levity of the film that remains throughout. There's
Light-hearted.
no dark, bloodied, horrendous scene at the end where there's all to fight for.
All of the things that made Iron Man 3 really horrible for me were not in this film, which was nice.
I think that's because of the harsh, dark tones of the OG Ant-Man.
Yeah.
You would have ruined the whole thing if you'd focused on that. And I suppose Iron Man 3 you have to have loss, but the thing is with Iron Man 3, it's the third of that series, so you've already had that time to familiarise yourself with what Tony Stark's gone through as an individual. And in addition to that, because of the way they fell, you've also seen the Avengers. So you've had essentially 4 films in which you've seen the start of Iron Man's story and how he's dealt with certain things. With Hank Pym, you haven't got that at all, because you're going by the fact that he's in his 60s or whatever. You only get small clips to the exposition of where he's come from with his working with S.H.I.E.L.D. You don't know what he's experienced personally and what his personal loss has been mentally, physically and emotionally. That would have been a really downer to start your film with.
But I mean, you get an indication of that because when he tells Hope about the wife story, I mean, that's a little bit of a sad thing. You can see that there's sadness in him and the fact that he's been trying to figure out what happened to her for all that time.
Yeah.
You get a bit of that.
Well, there's all kinds of emotional gravitas in the film, but they just don't dwell on it in a way where it brings it down a touch. The thing that does bring down is the subatomic universe that he delved into.
Very interesting.
That looks quite interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things that doesn't get picked up on, is the fact that Ant-Man can hop across dimensions. It's such a good character because, unfortunately, we've seen the films that have come out since. One of the things that this power allows him to do at a subatomic level, there's a thing that I've done which explains the differences between realms and universes and multiversal universes. They're not all the same. So when he's in the subatomic realm, the quantum realm, it's outside of time and space.
Right.
And that's a wonderful thing to be able to have as a character. Because
So is subatomic realm the same as quantum realm?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're that small, time and space doesn't affect you. It's a power that isn't explained a lot.
Does that mean he can't get old, or he will still get old, but when he comes back, it'll be the same time as when he left?
Yeah, this is where your ears will bleed. So if you imagine a time dilation, time inside the quantum realm will go slower than the time outside of that, which means that he will age, but slower than most people outside of that because of his size.
Okay. I've already switched off here.
Yeah, I thought you had. I thought I'd throw that in just to make sure that you were fast asleep. So like if you're in a
I've
coma...
pretended for long enough.
So if you're in a coma, you'd probably age slower than I would.
Okay.
Or if you're in space, you'd probably age slower than I would.
Right.
And we haven't had reference to the quantum realm until this point, have we?
Well, we don't know it's a quantum realm yet, do we?
We do, because Hank Pym refers to it when he talks about Janet.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. This brings us on nicely to there's 3 key things that follow on from the end fight scene. The first is the second story that Louis tells us about. Even I managed to pick up the enormous Easter egg in that one, which of course is what, Mr. Latham? Reference to who?
He mentions the web slinger.
Yeah, when Falcon's trying to track him down and Louis telling the story, someone within that thread mentions about, well, we've got one that swings and one that climbs walls, which
Yes.
is an absolute direct reference to Spider-Man, who we haven't seen in this universe yet.
No.
Has obviously got everyone excited at the time because this means that the fact they've referenced him could only mean one thing, which is that they're going to introduce him, which is fabulous. We get the first post-credits sting where we introduce the Wasp costume.
Yes.
Joy/Hope has some joy/hope because she gets to inherit the Wasp outfit that her mum once wore.
Very excited.
We see her wearing that in that flashback when she's with Hank Pym. We assume it's around the 80s, so with Cold War Russia and the dealing with a nuclear warhead. She goes subatomic to get into that panel to try and pry it away. So we see her wearing that in that flashback, and that's our introduction to Janet Van Dyne. So that was quite cool that she inherits her mum's costume. Hopefully it'll fit.
Well, I don't think it was her mum's costume because she obviously went subatomic with presumably the costume, or the costume got lost. But he's built another one or had a spare one.
She may have a spare one because
Yeah.
Iron Man's got about, 60 odd now?
Yeah. Well, he actually blew them all up in Iron Man 3, didn't he?
I don't believe he did. Like any man who has a porn collection, you still hide some somewhere. You show your wife that you've thrown some away, but it's probably the ones that are cardboard.
Yeah.
And then your wife thinks you've done a good thing. Meanwhile, your bed is still touching the ceiling. I think he told
Everyone he had.
Yeah.
And then the second post-credit sting.
Okay.
Now this, if ever there was a rather abrupt change of tone,
Yes.
I mean, it's like properly slams on the brakes of the happy train, sends you through the front windscreen.
If you're ever talking about what we say in Iron Man 3,
Yeah.
Because we have Falcon and Cat standing looking very morose at a bookie with his arm in a vice, looking also very fed up about life. I mean, were you happy-ish? Because you've got a bit of thing for old books.
I was like, oh, it's Bucky again, although he doesn't look very handsome because he got long hair. I only like Bucky with short hair.
How would you know he's got short hair?
Because he had short hair at the beginning, didn't he?
No.
Captain America.
Oh, right, that's true, yeah.
she's talking
Yeah,
World
yeah.
War II.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Pollard.
Where have you been for the last 15 films?
I'm just being the monitor.
My memory seems to be better than yours on these films at the minute.
Whatevs. That kind of brings us to the end of that film. Latham, you've got some Easter eggs you're going to run through, and then we'll rate the film, I think.
Just to wrap up the episode, I've got a few facts that might be interesting for you both, especially if you didn't know the Ten Rings are involved in the film. These are things that aren't specifically in the film, but are facts of the character. And then I've picked up some Easter eggs, some of which we've covered. Did you know that Scott Lang once dated Jessica Jones?
No.
Who's Jessica Jones?
Is that in the comics?
Yeah.
Wow.
So before she married Luke Cage, she dated him because they worked on a case together.
So you won't know Jessica Jones-ish because Netflix got the rights to Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and
Punisher.
The Punisher, and who was the other one? The really whiny bitch one.
Oh, Iron Fist.
Iron Fist. But they did stand outside the MCU, although at the time of people listening to this, they have since been brought back within the MCU.
They were tentatively
As
on
a-
the peripheral one.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, Jessica Jones is a really good character from that.
So that was good, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that you didn't
Yeah,
even...
that's very
Didn't know,
interesting.
but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I only mention it because obviously people will know Jessica Jones. Hank Pym is the most intelligent scientist outside of all of the scientists. He's the foremost. In fact,
Is that more than, say, Tony Stark then? Is he a scientist?
more than Reed Richards, more than Tony Stark, and
Wow.
in fact, the omnipotent entity Eternal called him the scientist supreme of Earth.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
There we are. As I've already mentioned, Hank Pym's character has a dark, flawed backstory. I also mentioned that he is a legacy character before what we can assume. I think we can say that Hope Van Dyne's going to take over the Wasp character. Although fans of the TV will know that Robbie Reyes took over the mantle for Ghost Rider. We've mentioned that Ant-Man can dimension hop. We go on to Easter eggs. One of the big ones, shout out to a 1979's Saturday Night Live show, was the guy whose taxi gets miniaturized.
Yeah.
The taxi driver played Ant-Man.
That's cool.
In 1979, it was a skit. It wasn't an official Marvel thing, but he played him. A guy called Garrett Morris. And then Cassie Lang is Stature, and the reason why she's called that is in the comics, when she gets angry, not like the Hulk, although technically a little like the Hulk, she gets bigger. What's going on over there? She's one of the young Avengers.
Is that a superpower? Is that using pim particles?
Well, it's a suit he's made. It'll be,
Right.
I think it's triggered by her emotional state.
All right, okay.
So I'm not sure what technology does that. Hormones.
Stay away from that.
Are you experiencing that at the moment? It's like, are you Stature? Like, oh, where's your tea?
No, I just feel like two males should never wander into that field.
If the field of women, which is not a bad thing. So anyway, she's called Stature. We're not sure where that's going to go, are we? Ten Rings get a shout out. They're the group that kidnapped Tony Stark. The logo.
Were the 10 rings in this film?
Oh, you must have watched a different film.
I'm going to rewatch it now for that particular scene. Now.
I imagine you watch Planet Earth with David Attenborough. I think that's what's happened there. Obviously, we see the Avengers facility that's being updated. Eternity. Now, again, I can't say too much about this other than watch this space, but it's an entity within the comic book realm that is mentioned a few times. And when he's in the quantum realm, Ant-Man hears the voice of Hank Pym. Hank Pym's voice says to him about the word entity. Now, people have heard that across MCU movies in the past and thought it's just the word, but in fact, in the comics, eternity is in fact an omniscient,
Omnipotent.
that, yes, very omnipotent entity. The other thing which was shown is when they're having the fight scene in the last part of the film where he makes the Thomas the Tank Engine gouge and it comes through the house. That could link to what foreshadows in the next film that we cover, because in the comics, Ant-Man has the ability to go big and is known as Giant, so that could be something there. Stan Lee cameo, we've already mentioned. He plays a barman when Louis is regaling them the story.
God rest his soul.
The other thing that was different to what has been put in the MCU is Hank Pym, Ant-Man, created Ultron. They probably didn't want to get bogged down with all of the dark stories of Ant-Man. They wanted to do Ant-Man first, the film. They wanted to do that as one of the first films, but they never did. They've made it so Iron Man created Ultron rather than actually being Hank Pym. So that's quite interesting.
I feel that was a smart move, because Ant-Man, you have to have a more fantastical belief because it makes people super small, so there's almost a magical, unbelievable element to it. I appreciate that sounds silly when you try to describe what Iron Man also does, but Iron Man feels more real because it's basically a man building a mechanical suit. Unlike DC, who just went in at the deep end rather arrogantly, the MCU has realised that if you start small and build your way up, so if you start with something perhaps more grounded and work your way towards that, people will accept it more readily because it fits into the storyline.
I think the way the MCU have approached the whole of the different phases, where it being Earth-based, then universe-based, and then maybe moving into more magical things, makes perfect sense, because actually, is it unreasonable to believe that if you've got unlimited money, or you're pretty well off, could you build an Iron Man suit? And the answer is you probably could. As a new project, to go to a bank manager and say, we've got this idea, we've got this guy that used to be on drugs, he's going to be the lead, will you give us some money? Probably a better thing to go, Ant-Man who? You mean the guy that was schizophrenic and slapped his wife around? Yeah, you're probably not going to get a loan on that. The fact they've done it and edged it in, it actually works out really well.
Yeah.
Now, it is fantastical. You're working in the science of subatomic levels which exist, and you're looking at things that are on the cellular level. This then means what we move into makes perfect sense and is a bit more believable from the fans. DC, as you quite rightly say, just blurted it everywhere. But one film will have everyone in it and the heads will be spinning because it's so fast.
Yeah.
We mentioned the microverse, and the reason why I'm saying the microverse is because there is actually a comic called The Micronauts, the group of people who could go subatomic. So we may see sometime in the future whether they get a group of people who become the Micronauts. In the post-credit scene, they mentioned the Accords, legislation to stop the superpowers being used, which then takes it further into what the next film will focus on. During one of the speeches that Darren Cross does about shrinking technology, he mentions Tales to Astonish, the comic that Hank Pym originally made his first appearance. We've already mentioned that we see Winter Soldier. I think you mentioned Ish about them saying no thank you to the Avengers. That is him referencing Age of Ultron, where he says they're probably dropping cities from the sky. The music that's played when Louis is whistling, pretending to be the tech security guard, is the music played when you go on the water ride at every Disney park.
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
The Milgram Hotel, where Scott and his cohorts stay, is named after the artist Al Milgram, who drew the West Coast Avengers that featured Hank Pym, but not as Ant-Man. Yellow Jacket we've already mentioned. The other interesting thing that you may or may not have picked up on is...
Chances are we didn't.
Let's go glass half full. San Quentin State Prison, the prison that Scott Lang was supposed to go in. Quick question, which other Marvel character has spent time in San Quentin prison?
Who we've seen thus far.
Who you've seen thus far and mentioned before.
Okay, so it could be Iron Man.
I'll give you a clue. You mentioned it when you were talking about Netflix.
Okay, so Daredevil.
No.
Jessica Jones.
No. Are
Luke
you
Cage.
literally going through all of them? There's
Luke
5
Cage.
shows. No.
The one who's I've already forgotten. Iron Fist.
No.
Punisher.
I wasn't getting any of them.
Neither was he.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, the last one you picked
I was
was
dragging that out for excitement purposes.
Yes, he spent time in San Quentin prison. The guy who appears when they're in S.H.I.E.L.D. at the beginning, opening scene, is a chap called Mitchell Carson. He played Ant-Man, but wasn't meant to.
Okay.
Got the technology and became Ant-Man, but unofficially.
Cool.
Not in a good way. Didn't work out well for him.
Was it like one of those cheap knockoffs?
Bit like Darren Cross. Pretty much the same with Iron Man. When you create technology that's really good, other people want it. The United States government wanting War Machine for their own development program. That's what they tried to do with Hank Pym's technology. That's why the Pym particles are so important to the storyline, as we'll find out later on. That's all I had.
Well,
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for that, Mr. Latham. So now comes to my favourite part of the show, where we bicker like old ladies over our top 10. To roughly run through, what we'll do is we're going to go around the room quickly, get our score out of 10 for this film, and we will see where that fits in and amongst the scorings of the films we've seen to date, which we've obviously been watching in chronological, not release order. We'll then go on to our top 10 favourite characters. What we're doing is we're identifying what our individual top 10 favourite MCU characters are. The rules are we can only include a character who's been in the films that we've watched. If we insert a character above one that we actually like even more, we can only change their position when we see them in another film. For example, I can't change my position of Iron Man today because he wasn't in the Ant-Man film. Wherever he ends up at the end of this scoring is where it'll be until the next film, which will be Civil War, which we're going to watch. Who would like to go first? Ish, would you like to go first?
Yeah.
Go on then. Give us your assessment, your score, your explanation, and where it's going in. It's 13 films. Do you want to read your 13 out?
Yeah, my current 13 is number 1, Guardians of the Galaxy 1, 10 out of 10. Number 2, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, 9 out of 10. Number 3, Avengers Age of Ultron, 9 out of 10. Number 4, Avengers Assemble, 9 out of 10. 5, Iron Man 1, 9 out of 10. 6, Iron Man 2, 8 out of 10. 7, Thor, 7 out of 10. 8, Captain America First Avenger, 7 out of 10. 9, Captain America Winter Soldier, 7 out of 10. And 10, Iron Man 3, 6 out of 10. Do you want me to go over?
Yeah, you might as well read the last 3 out.
Thor, Dark World, 6 out of 10. 12, Captain Marvel, 6 out of 10. And The Hulk at number 13, 1 out of 10.
So where's this going?
To be honest, it's been that long since we've watched these movies, I can't remember really like how much I loved the other films versus this film.
What would you give it out of 10?
I would give it a 7. I'm erring on the side of a 7. I just don't know where in my current 7s, which include Thor, Captain America First Avenger and Captain America Winter Soldier, it would go. I'd probably say push Captain America Winter Soldier down 1.
Okay, so it's your new number 8. Your new number 9.
Yeah, I like the film. It's light-hearted. It's a good introduction to a new character. The baddie wasn't as good as the other baddies that I've seen, and I do like good baddies in Marvel movies, but it was light-hearted and it was fun, so yeah.
Okay, Latham. Latham.
Do you not want to go first?
No, you go.
Because you always complain about being
I've complained the last few films. I've got to save it up for a couple now, and then I'll
let the record show that was offered.
Yeah, noted.
You want me to read through my current top 10?
Yeah, go on.
At number 1, we've got Avengers Assemble, 9 out of 10, followed by Iron Man at 9 out of 10. Number 3, we've got Avengers Age of Ultron, 8 out of 10. Number 4, Captain America Winter Soldier, 8 out of 10. Number 5, Iron Man 3, 8 out of 10. Number 6, Iron Man 2, 8 out of 10. A lot of 8 out of 10s here. Number 7, Guardians of the Galaxy, 8 out of 10. Number 8, Guardians of the Galaxy 2,
This is very Latham.
8 out of 10. Number 9, Captain Marvel, 8 out of 10. Number 10 is Captain America First Avenger, 7 out of 10. Do you want me to give you the last 3?
Yeah, go on. Finish off.
So Thor's at number 11, 7 out of 10. 12 is Thor Dark World, 7 out of 10. And 13 is Hulk, 6 out of 10.
Okay, so where's this one going?
So this one, I'm going to give this 8 out of 10.
You do surprise us.
Well, you could have guessed that. And the reason I'm going to give that is similar to what Ishtar said. Using also my knowledge of the comics, I felt that this was a really good way to introduce a character that the fans will know because of obviously being Scott Lang, but also not lose lose the fact that Hank Pym is the OG Ant-Man and they have involvement in the film, and there's a nice family feel to it. And yeah, the villain isn't as bad, but I felt in as far as villains go, he did follow through on what he was going to do rather than suddenly find a Damascus Road experience and undo everything he'd spent 2 hours doing. For that reason, 8 out of 10. Where is it going to go, you ask?
Yes, where?
I would move Captain Marvel down and put it as my new 9.
Okay, so it's going in the same spot as Ish.
Yeah, it's like Ishtar saying Captain Marvel got 8 out of 10, and I'm trying to work out why I did that.
Go back and watch Captain Marvel to find out more.
I think I've given it 8 out of 10 because of the little nods to other things in comic, because
Yeah.
I don't think you gave it that, did you?
I gave it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, we've had the same perennial conversation about strong female characters. She's super powered, isn't she?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that she could kill everybody and everything was
And the
boring.
massive chip on her shoulder.
Yeah.
So that's where I am with that.
Very good.
What about yourself?
For me, number 1 is Avengers Assemble, number 2 is Guardians of the Galaxy. Both of those have 10 out of 10. Then we've got Iron Man at number 3 and Captain America Winter Soldier at number 4. Those are both 9 out of 10 films. Captain America First Avenger at 5, Avengers Age of Ultron at 6, Thor at 7, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 at 8, Iron Man 3 at 9, and Iron Man 2 at 10, and they're all 8 out of 10ers. And then we've got Captain Marvel at 11, at 7 out of 10, Thor the Dark World at 6 out of 10, and Hulk at a lowly 4 out of 10 at the bottom. I'm going to slide Ant-Man into 6th and give it 8 out of 10.
You've given us a spoiler here.
Why?
Because I've got in bold
Yeah.
Ant-Man 1, 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
Should it be on this printout?
Well, put it on already by accident and print it off, so don't worry about it. Ant-Man is going in 8 out of 10 at number 6.
That's very high.
So it's below Captain America First Avenger, but it's above Avengers Age of Ultron. I just like that it's light, it's funny, the characters are all really lovable, there's enough sort of within the MCU universe for it to feel like it's tied in. There's lots of loose string threads to pull on, which are going to be dead interesting going forward. I just think this is a really nice, well done, slick film. I suppose the test of these is, could I watch this film if I walked in on, say, a Sunday afternoon, it's on the telly, would I sit down and watch it? Age of Ultron is one of those where if I'd seen it recently, I'd go, oh no, I can't be arsed, and switch it over because it's a bit heavy and there's all this stuff going on and lots of banging and crashing. Whereas this film, actually, you can just have it on the background or you can sit and watch it. It's just a good film. So, yeah, number 6.
Interesting.
Can I just say for the record that we've both got a sheet of A4 paper each for ours, and Mr. Pollard's is on 2 pages of
I know.
A4. Have you seen the list of his people, his
I
characters?
know.
Well, let's move on to this
I
then.
feel like we should just get Pollard to read out his favourite
He
characters.
should never ever print these off again because a rainforest will die.
I know.
The next thing we'll do is we're going to say our top 10 favourite MCU characters and whether there's any from Ant-Man that will fit into that top 10. As I said before, we can only move around characters in our top 10 if they've been in the film. Unlike these two, who we have actually kept a couple of people beyond the top 10, but I've kept a list of everyone that I've ever been ranking. So my top 10 list is 10, and I'm only going to read the top 10 out, but I'm up to 55 characters now that I've ranked at some point.
Compared to?
Because I find it interesting to know. So, like Hank Pym, for
Yes,
example,
tell me.
funny enough, won't go in my top 10, spoiler alert, but it's interesting for me to try and look at where he would fit into the MCU rating generally. That's for my own personal benefit, not necessarily for the
So,
listeners.
just to clarify, you've got 55 top characters. How many top characters have Latham and I got?
You've got 21 and Latham's got 20.
Interesting.
Wow.
Says a lot about you, doesn't it, Pollard?
I'm thorough.
He's a people pleaser.
He
I'm
is.
thorough.
He just wants everyone.
Well, shall I go first in as though you're mocking my
Go
top
on.
10 already?
Yes, please.
Okay, my top 10 at the moment is Rocket number 1, Cap number 2, fuck off, Hawkeye 3, Drax 4, Groot 5, Star-Lord / Peter Quill 6, Groot the original at 7, Black Widow at 8, Thor at 9, and Iron Man at 10. And I'm going to slide Scott Lang in at number 6.
Sure you are.
What?
He's below Baby Groot, but he's above Peter Quill.
How can he be above Peter Quill?
Because I think he's funnier. I do.
Than Peter Quill?
Yeah, I do.
No.
Just to be certain here, nearly a third of his list is CGI characters.
Yeah.
I know, but don't forget that these will change as we go through the subsequent films. I watched the Guardians of the Galaxy and loved it and have literally thrown a lot of those characters in there. I'm sure that will change as we go along. For just general interest purposes, I guess. So where do we go? Hank Pym went in at number 24.
Did you put him in?
Below Justin Hammer, but above Rhodey. Hope Van Dyne, where did she go in? She went in near the bottom. She went in number 47. Below the intern from Thor 2, but above Yellow Jacket, who was also above Ronin.
Oh my god.
And Louis
You put him in?
Yeah, he's at number 13. Below Loki, but above Yondu.
Oh my god.
There are people.
So Anthony didn't get into the list.
No, but when we mentioned him before, I am going to put him in, but I think I'm going to probably put him in with the Flurkin. The Flurkin's on here somewhere.
It's number 37.
Flurkin's at number 37, so I'm going to put Anthony under the Flurkin.
Wow.
Above Captain Marvel.
Above an alien cat.
And Ronan.
Yeah.
And oh my god.
There you go.
Oh my god, your list is absolutely crazy.
Yes, thank you. You're all welcome. Right, who wants to go next out of you two?
Go on, Latham.
Okay.
Who's going to upset me first?
My current list... Deep breath, guys.
I feel you should explain before you read your list out what your ethos is with this list, because mine was very much characters I enjoy to watch, who've been good characters. You've gone for a very different tactic.
Latham's
here.
gone for who will win a world war.
If there was a civil war, let's say.
Although I disagree with the fact that they would, because when I've got people like Thor in my team.
Yeah, but you've got 2 trees. And a raccoon.
One of them trees is a baby tree.
A sapling.
So you ain't winning shit, Pollard. His list is kicking your list ass.
We'd win the cute
Yeah,
competition.
if there was merchandise being produced of your list, then yes, you would do well. Well, my list is based on, I quite like a villain. Villains are one of the best characters to play. I've simply put in what happens to be a lot of villains, or at least anti-villains, but also ones I think that are pretty cool, who are also villains. So my list of 10 at the moment is Iron Man at 1, of course, why not? Then Ultron, of course. Bucky Barnes, but in the guise of Winter Soldier, which was quite controversial, so there's an oblique in there. Slash, Ulysses Claw, everyone knows, fantastic villain. Loki, of course.
He's cheeky.
He's cheeky, isn't he?
He's cheeky.
Cheeky, whilst also killing you in a cheeky way. Talos, thought he was a good character. Red Skull's at 7. 8, Aldrich Killian. Number 9 is Star-Lord. Number 10, Trevor Slattery, because they wouldn't let me have the Mandarin. And then I've got another 10.
Yeah, let's not go below there, because it just upsets me that Cap isn't in your top 10.
The ones I would add into this, I would put in Yellow Jacket.
Where's he going?
I mean, he's not even that good a character, is he?
I know, but I just like him. He's a bit cheeky. I would probably put him number 9. Do I lose Trevor?
Yeah. Tricky, innit? You see? It's getting tough.
If I put him at 10, I still lose Trevor.
Yeah. No, if you put him in at... Yeah, well, yeah, if he's in at 10.
The only way you don't lose Trevor is to put him in at 11.
Yeah, we can't.
Or if Trevor features in a film at any point in the future, you can just move Trevor back up into the top 10. Tricky, isn't it? We're having to relegate people now who we really don't want to.
You know what I should have done tactically is put everyone in at a low number, put the new people in below them. No, that wouldn't work. As you can imagine, mathematics isn't my go-to.
While Latham's thinking, I'm just going to pop downstairs and get the fire extinguisher. There does appear to be some smoke coming out of his ears.
Okay, I'm going to have to go for it, and I am going to lose Trevor either way. I'm going to put him in at 9 and move Star-Lord down.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But then, if I put someone else in, I'm going to move him off the list anyway, aren't I?
But you see, Star-Lord, you can move back up when there's another Guardians film
I wonder
or
when that happens.
an Avengers film or something like that.
Yeah, luckily the only other one I was going to put in was Ant-Man, the Scott Lang version.
Okay, and are you going to put him in?
Yeah, I am. I'm going to put him in at number 7 and move Red Skull down, which means that I will lose Star-Lord.
I can't believe you've got Ant-Man down in your team that you think's going to be like super kick-ass.
Yeah, that's really surprising.
That feels controversial, that.
Yeah.
I'm not just picking because he's a villain, I'm picking because he's a good character.
Yeah, but
I mean, I haven't got anyone else, that's it.
that's the point. You haven't got anyone else.
I know, but I've got a lot of good people here. I would love a fight with them.
Okay.
Or not.
Well, not me, I'd just send them out to your team. I mean, your team with an axe to cut down 2 trees.
Listen, I've got a god in mind. He'll just do the heavy lifting. It's fine.
Know what we know about where he's up to.
In fact, hang on a minute. 1, 2, sort of 3. 3 of my 10 don't actually have superpowers. Hawkeye, Scott Lang, and Natasha.
Wow. So a third of yours are CGI characters, a third don't have superpowers.
No.
Wow. Okay. I've got a god in mind, Loki.
Yeah.
You know, you're welcome.
Ish.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel your list is not quite as... Since Guardians has come along, your list is less tragic, because at one point before Guardians, yours did look very similar to Latham's.
Yeah, it did. And then I love the Guardians film, so mine's really heavily Guardians oriented.
Car crash, isn't it?
So my top 10 at the minute is 1 Rocket, 2 Drax, 3 Loki, 4 Baby Groot, 5 Star-Lord, 6 Iron Man, 7 Black Widow, Thor at 8, Hawkeye at 9, and Nick Fury at 10.
I feel like Nick Fury hasn't been in enough of these films to warrant being in the top 10, do you?
No, I suppose. But then, see, we could...
But you put Baby Groot in there and he's been in for like half a movie and he's a friggin' Baby Groot.
I know, but I don't feel like Nick Fury's earned...
Whatever, Pollard.
I would like to comment on your list being quite weak now.
It wouldn't win a fight.
It wouldn't win anything. It wouldn't win an argument in a shop.
No, I know.
I mean, whoever you put in there last, thankfully the Guardians has seen you bump Thanos out of your top 10.
I know.
Bearing in mind, Thanos was put in there because he was in a post-credit sting for about a second.
And he's out your list. So you've got, what, Hawkeye that's got no powers, Nick Fury no power, Black Widow no power, Iron Man no power apart from tech, Star-Lord no power, Thor you've got as a god, Loki as a god, Drax probably punch you a bit, and then Rocket and Baby Groot.
In her defence, Star-Lord does potentially have some powers because he's
half god.
You're scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Whatever, I love my list.
Are you putting anyone in your list?
I'll put Ant-Man in at number 10 and bump down Nick Fury, and that's the only person I'm putting in.
You're not putting Louis in?
So a film that we really enjoyed, that's not a lot of people we've put in this list, is it?
Well, mine's at 7 out of 10, so that makes sense for me. Yellow Jacket isn't enough of a baddie for me to put him in.
No, I didn't find him a particularly compelling baddie.
No, I think that's fair.
Yours is relative to a 9 out of 10 where you put 5 characters in. That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
Is it prorated? Yeah. How many characters if it was 8 out of 10? Like 4.
Depends how good the characters are.
No relation to the score.
I'm a big lover of
characters.
Guardians as well as
I'm getting that
Loki.
because you've got the whole cast.
I know.
Let us know what you think. Let us know what your list might be. Remember, the rules are it has to be only characters that are featured up to this point. Don't be including people who we may stumble across in the future. Let us know on any of the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's at the 2 marks, or if you want to email us, the 2 marks at thepodstation.co.uk. That's pretty much it, really. Which film are we watching again? I've alluded to it a couple of times, but
Civil War.
Captain America Civil War. Pick a side.
Absolutely. Not set on a fence. Mm-hmm. They'll get bum rash. On that note, thanks for listening, listeners. Excelsior!
Get social at the 2 Marks on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Also check them out on YouTube.